This is Jamie Drummond for Good Food Revolution. I'm here at Southbrook with winemaker Ann Sperling, and today we're going to be looking at cap management. If you wouldn't mind explaining a little bit about what we're actually going to get up to, that would be great.
Okay, so red wine making basics is that if you want color, it comes from the skin because vinifera red grapes primarily have white juice and red skins. So tannin, color, and a lot of components that contribute to the body of the wine come from the skins. So, and seeds, but primarily the skins. And so during fermentation, the yeast are consuming sugar, producing alcohol, but there's also CO2 and heat. So those two last elements, particularly the CO2, causes the skins of the grapes to be pushed up out of the fermenting liquid. So in order to get a better extraction, we want to irrigate the skins or push them back down into the wine. So our choice to irrigate, which is referred to as délestage or pumping over, is a chance to draw the juice off more or less the bottom of the tank and return it back over the top of the skins. So basically it's showering or cascading wine over the skins. And this incorporates a lot of oxygen, which is a healthy additive or ingredient for the yeast, but also for the tannins. So for tannins to be stable and to become a complex part of the wine, oxygen is necessary in the chemistry to bind it and have it permanently part of the wine. So this simply is, at the start it's just circulating the wine, and then now I can wet all of the skins, and if I want a little more oxygen in it, I can just kind of pull it back so I get a little bit more.
Ah, that's what it is.
This is Cabernet Sauvignon, and we always have small, very dense berries, so the pump over is important because the berries are quite intact, and it takes a lot for the cap to sink or to be submerged in the wine. The other thing is that Bordeaux varieties, particularly Cab Franc and Cab Sauv, Petit Verdot, their tannins are more reactive, meaning that a greater amount of oxygen during the fermentation helps, makes a better wine. So just generally doing this step 3 times a day gives us elegance, but also a stable wine with good structure.
I love the smell of that Cabernet fruit.
Yeah, I know, it's really beautiful. And if the wine were a little bit reductive, that's like some hydrogen sulfide, a little bit eggy smelling, that's an indication that the wine needs more oxygen. And this step, doing it for an extra 5 or 10 minutes, helps to clear up that reduction. And it's actually a good sign. It's a good sign that the wine has vitality.
Right.
So these screens are what allows us to do a really effective délestage, and they sit inside the tank and they hold back the skins and seeds from the valve so that it's only clear wine that's running through that then gets returned over the top of the tank. So here you have the wine. When it cascades over the screen, when it hits the screen like that, it's fully oxygenated. So it'll absorb as much oxygen as possible doing that. And then you get one more time of oxygen saturation over the top. And then of course, as soon as it hits the fermenter, the yeast consume it. So it seems like there's a lot of oxygen, but it's all getting used and then by either the yeast or by the wine. So it doesn't destroy the wine, it actually builds it up. So for demonstration, we'll do both punch down and pulse air on the same vat, which we wouldn't normally do, but just so that So you can see the two methods. The push down is literally that. It's just a mechanism to manually push the cap into the wine. And that's commonly done on Pinot Noir, where the tannin structure is different and doesn't demand as much oxygen typically, although some regions and some winemakers will still use more oxidative methods on Pinot Noir. What was I going to say? The other reason that we use it is when the wines are near the end of their fermentation, when the cap has sunk, like in the case of this tank, and then physically it's possible to do it, but we also know that because we don't have the yeast demanding all that oxygen, that we don't want to incorporate as much into the wine at this stage.
So basically you have a big plastic tube there with a kind of base at the end.
Well, we got really creative with this one. This is the economy push down version.
Okay.
Some people who've done home plumbing might recognize that as a plumbing flange.
Okay.
So that's all it is. But the beauty of it is the diameter.
Right.
It's a nice diameter. The slots on the side allow for some liquid to push up through it. And so this is a convenient size to physically, manually be able to push down on the cap.
And how long, when one is doing manual push downs, how long does one do them for?
Well, I guess it depends on, like, we most commonly use this in bins. Mm-hmm. So when we're doing one-time fermentation lots, and so it's not that difficult, but it is a pretty good workout. So
right.
If you're a smaller person, it's a bigger effort because you putting your weight behind it is important, and so I guess people will do as much as they can, and we do the push downs 2 or 3 times a day. So there's usually a break in between.
Right. So that would be quite the workout. So you just push down.
So basically. You can see the skins there, and so it just push them into the liquid. So you can see it's very gentle and no oxygen really.
Which brings us to our third method.
The third method.
And tell us a little about this one.
So this method is called Pulse Air. This unit was actually built by Martin Malivoire, and he looked at a commercial product that was on the market, but actually designed for mixing paint while it's in storage, in the manufacturing process. So what was important for the paint product was that it would be a very gentle mixing without any mechanical activity, because they were concerned about sparks or anything that could create flammability in the paint product. So it's very gentle, and what the concept is that the device delivers a large bubble of air, or it could be neutral gas like nitrogen, to the bottom of the vat, and that bubble travels up through the cap and breaks the cap. So it's meant to break up the cap.
And when would you use this method? When you were making wines at Southbrook?
So we use it usually towards the end of fermentation. So during the very active part, when there's a lot of fermentation activity, the yeast are very demanding, need oxygen, so délestage. But towards the end of fermentation, not quite when the cap has sunk, but just before that. So it's just to break up the cap, and but not to introduce as much oxygen. So with délestage, you're getting lots of air in tiny volume. Think about when you have that bubble thing on your faucet. It's a soft with spray with lots of air in it. Whereas in this case, it's a really big bubble that's traveling through and coming out, so the amount of oxygen pickup is very minimal.
Are there any particular varietals that you would utilize this method with?
Anything that's if it was like Pinot Noir, again, if you're you want less oxygen to go into it. So basically, the line is this line is carrying the gas, and we use air, but it's associated with a compressor that has a very sophisticated filter on it, so it's very clean air. And this is the valve control right here, very simple lever. So when I push on that, the bubble goes in and then comes through. So now that it's deeper, there's a bit of a lag from when you put it in until it breaks through. But you can see that it's very different in that it's just breaking it up, whereas the other methods are more about immersion.
Very
This
cool.
can be messy.
Yeah, I can see that. Perfect. Ann Sperling, thank you very much for showing us these 3 very different methods of cap management at Southbrook today. We look forward to tasting these wines when they come to fruition eventually, and we look forward to catching up with you very soon. Bye for now.
Right.